Good morning, everyone. My name is James Henderson, and I will be your instructor for the next 60 minutes on bathroom design. Um, as I said, this class will be recorded, so if you want to go back and review anything that we cover off, I'll be posting this to our social media pages. If you're not familiar with our social media pages at all, I would encourage you to take a look at them. I pulled it up on screen for you to be able to see, but this is our YouTube page. Simply do a search for Softland, and you'll see that we've got a host of videos that we put on there. And basically, on average, about twice a week, maybe 3 times a week, we're posting helpful videos and how-tos to our YouTube page, to our Facebook page, as well as our LinkedIn and Instagram and user forum, etc., whereby you can go in and learn a lot of helpful tips and tricks. And as I say, there is a Friday Fundamentals playlist, which you can go in, review this class and previous classes with which we have been teaching from. So a few weeks ago I uploaded one for kitchen design, which would walk hand in hand with this. With that said, I'm going to get myself started, and this is going to move at a pretty good pace. There's not a lot of time for question and answer in this class. This is intended to show you a lot of what the program can do, and as I said, because it's recorded, you'll be able to go back and review this at a later time. What we're going to be doing is, in essence, designing a custom bathroom. And so you have on screen the actual Softland drawing, and then I've captured an image looking at it from the opposite end of things. And we're going to be going in, and my goal here is to teach you simple things like drawing of cabinets, but then also how to implement many of the custom textures that are in there. We will be doing some custom cabinetry design for what was a walk-through closet, so to speak, from the bedroom. And then, a number of other just custom little items, such as I've got some symbols in there that you may not have in yours, where I got those and brought those in as far as, the software is concerned, etc. And so what I'm going to do is you'll see I'll be going back and forth between two tabs at the top, but this is my 3D textured, model, and then this would be basically the floor plan that I'm going to be working towards. Okay, and so there's a series of cabinets as well as custom manufacturer symbols. We'll be designing a shower in place, and as I said, this basic walk-through closet will also be something that we're going to work with. And so I'm going to drag that off the screen for right now. And what I've basically done is I've created the plan without all of the information. So if you were looking at this stage, think of this as very much like whether it's a smaller house or a condo, where we're actually doing some sort of a renovation in this area for the bathroom and closet area. Okay, and so at this stage, what I'm going to do is just zooming this up and opening up into the 3D texture, making it's stacked in the model plan right here. We can see what the 3D model is going to look like. Okay, and so along this wall is where we're going to be placing the cabinets. And so what I'm going to do is we're going to begin by drawing this. And the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to come in, I'm going to right click on this, and I'm going to move it to a new vertical tab group. Now, I won't do this entirely within the entire design phase, but sometimes it's nice to have the visual feedback on the screen. In truth, when I'm designing, in many cases, I have actually 3 monitors on my desktop. And so I will have a monitor that has the 3-dimensional model. I may have the floor plans, and I may have like elevations or cross sections open elsewhere. Because this is a simple design, I'm really only concerned with seeing the 3D model and the floor plan right here. And so with this open at this stage, I'm just simply going to come in through Draw and select Cabinet. And you can select, as I said, from either the manufacturers, or in my case, I'm just going to use general symbols to begin with. So we're selecting the flat panel for what we're doing. I'm actually going to select from this the 9-inch cabinet. Okay, and so in this case here, I can then select, what I want as far as what the faceplate is concerned. And so once I have done this, I can position my cursor and click to draw it in. And we see the immediate, feedback feedback right there. So continuing on with this, I'm going to scroll down and select the next size of cabinet, a 36-inch. Once again, I can go to the faceplate and I can select what it is that I want as far as the style is concerned. So I don't actually want a handle on there. I want a drawer panel on there. Notice I leave the configure cabinet dialog open, okay, and what that allows me to do in this case here is then pick and choose the different cabinets that I'm going to use. And so if there's a cabinet that I've already drawn somewhere, I'll cancel this for a second. Using the draw select command, I could once again pick this B9 cabinet that's there and then just click and draw it in. So now we have one on either side. And we'll play around with, some of the different faceplates and so on this in just a minute. And so continuing on with this then, I'm going to go back to my cabinet feature, back into my base. This time I'm going to select the 30-inch. And again, this is where I'm just kind of jumping back and forth to select the different drawer panels that are available. So size, panel, and cabinet face, and I'll draw a couple of 30-inch cabinets in there. And so using the explode command, which is just Control E, I can see what I have drawn. And using the letter S, which is the same as picking draw select, I can pick this cabinet and draw it in, use the select, pick the 9-inch cabinet and draw it in, and so on. Okay, and so this is something that you can do. If you make a mistake at any time, you can always hit the undo key. It's going to take you back. So in this case, I'll place, because I'm going for symmetry here, all right, I can just continue to select the cabinets that I want to place until I have my run of cabinets. Now that's obviously a long run of cabinets. You may not have that amount of space to design all of that, but my goal here is that I can modify or draw what it is I need, okay, and that's the entire purpose of this Friday Fundamental. So as I zoom around and take a look at this, I'll now be able to edit the face of these cabinets and make changes to it. So in this case here, let's just start with the base cabinet over to the right-hand side. As we modify this, you'll be able to go in and change things like what the finish is going to be. So you can see as I go through, I can select any one of the different faces. The maple light is fine for me, so I'm going to leave it there. As I go to the face option, this is where I can, determine what I want for the face frame to look like. So in this case, you can see I'm selecting an inset face here, okay, as far as my style is concerned. Moving to the accessories option is where I can change the different handles and such that are going to be placed on this. And so in this case here, I can select, from the pulled arch, for example, as being my option on this, okay? And as I select OK, this is something you could simply do a repeat edit on any one of the other cabinets and such that I've drawn on here. And so I'm just, scrolling along, and as my cabinets, are selected, they're going to have the same change applied so that the face is inset, okay, and, the handle is carried over as far as the design is concerned. So, and this is the benefit of doing it inside the 3D model, because in this case here, I can actually, get the immediate feedback on something like this. Now, in addition to that, I'm going to want to go in and add, things like sinks and mirrors and items like that along with this. And so I'm going to go into this cabinet right here and do an edit. And when I do that and I go to the actual base cabinet, down here on the add symbol, I can add things like taps, sinks, mirrors, or if I were doing a kitchen design, replace the cabinet and maybe put something like a dishwasher in or something along that lines. So in my case, I'm going to select sink. Now, we have literally thousands of symbols that are in there. And if you're looking for something that's quick, you can always just pick from the generic symbols. I do tend to gravitate towards the manufacturers because in today's day and age, everybody wants a 3D rendering to a degree. They're HGTV trained, if you will. That's what they're expecting to see. So in my case, I will oftentimes draw with the manufacturer symbols in there. One, it shows on the 3D properly for me. Two, I can use it as a bill of materials. And three, the client then knows exactly what they're getting. And for sometimes dimensionally, that makes a difference. And so in this case here, I can scroll, as you can see, all of the various symbols that are here. And so I'm just going to scroll down. And once again, I'm working from the knowledge of, what I want as far as the design is concerned. And so I'm just scrolling down to look for a symbol, or I could even do a search if I knew what I wanted. Okay, and it's going to do a search for me. And as you can see, when I typing in the actual product code, so I could have the manufacturer literature open in front of me, either on the web or literally old school magazine. I can then do a search for that symbol and have it inserted or applied to the actual bathroom vanity itself. And so in this case here, I'll simply do a repeat edit, and you can see now I've actually added a vanity on either side. And so it's just that simple. Doing a search, finding the product code, inputting it into the plan, and of course, as I modify it in 3D, it shows up in the 2D plan over here, okay? And so now, moving forward, the next thing that I might want to do is whether I'm going to add a mirror in here, or whether I'm going to go in and, add an actual faucet of some sort, okay? So in this case here, I may just go in and I want to add some sort of a wall, faucet that's going to be used. And so I'm just going to select draw. Now, when I go into Softland and I scroll down, I've got my list of manufacturers, which I'm looking at right now. And if you're a monthly subscriber, you know that we are constantly updating the libraries for you. Okay, and it's the Softland manufacturers. And as you scroll down, there's a Softland Plus library item. And under Softland Plus, this is where we're updating these libraries on a constant basis for you. So you're always staying up to date with what we have inside Softland. So you can see I'm just scrolling through and I can see what we have. And I'm going to go down into the Hansgrohe, library that's right here. And now in this case, I can, actually go down into the wash basin option. And as I click, I can begin to see all of the library items that are there. So in this case, because it's a wall mount that I'm going for, I'm going to click OK on that, and I'm going to actually turn my F11 snap feature on. And the snap feature will allow me to see or center that symbol, relative to the actual basin itself. Now you can always move this, okay, but because this is a single handle and not a handle on either side, I can then move it into place. I can also just simply do in my case, I'm going to right click so I can click the copy command, and now I can scroll down and just copy another one on this side right here and click OK, and I now have both of those. So the combination of being able to draw these or be able to go in and edit a base cabinet and add something like a tap, sink, or in my case now I'm going to select mirror, and I'm just going to do a quick search. And in the case of the mirror, I'm actually just adding something very generic in there, and so we'll add the mirror in, and then I'll simply click the repeat edit over here. One of the things that you can then do is edit these, and what I want to do is in the plan, create an elevation of this. And so I'm going to come in through model, and I'm going to select interior elevation. And I'm just simply going to click where you see where I clicked and drag it towards the plan, and it inserts, and it labels it 1. And when I go to the interior view at this stage, what it's going to do is pull up an elevation view for me, okay, on the actual drawing. And so in this case here, I could edit. Now the mirror is what I'm after, and it didn't show up in the elevation. So I modified the mirror. I clicked on definition, and in this stage, I want to preview it in the elevation itself. So I'm changing the definition of the model itself so that we can actually see it. And so let me just these have moved on me, so I'm going to due to the stacking on it. So I'm going to actually edit these and just change their actual height to, let me move this into place. So I did an undo, and I will do it inside 3D. It's finding the faucet on me, so I'm going to move that into place, and then I will take it out of cleanup. So what I'm doing is I'm actually overriding the default. So I'm going to edit this right here, and you'll see I've moved it into place myself, and that removes it from the cleanup. It was basically finding the faucet on there, on me. And I'm going to move this, these mirrors to get them slightly above, and I can always edit these and change the dimensions on these. So in this case here, I will turn on the aspect ratio and so on, or and leave it as is and change the width to match what's going to be over top of the actual basin itself, and then I'll just simply do a repeat edit. Okay. And again, if I edit this and I go into the definition, I'd like this to come up in the interior elevation so that we can actually see it. And so we now see them there, and these could then be modified from here as well. So that's just done through the definition if something is not showing up, and then you can override or set them up in place. So that's basically getting our vanity set up at this time, inside the 3D. We've got the handle set. We'll change things like materials, for the countertops in a little bit. Coming back into the floor plan now, what I'm going to do is we're going to add in a tub and build a shower to go with this, and then we'll work on the finishes of this in just a little bit. And so if we focus on this area right here, we're going to come in through the draw and we're going to select wall. And as I scroll down, okay, I see that there's not a shower wall in there. So I'm going to create one with you on screen at this point. I'm going to click on File. I'm going to select project options at this stage, and we're going to go into the define wall feature and then select edit. And as I scroll down, okay, I'm going to create a new wall at this point, and I'm just going to call this glass. Okay, so it's just our glass shower wall, and I'll select OK. From the wall definition menu, I can scroll down and just find, the glass option as being assigned. I can then set it up for a width, whatever the thickness or that I want that to be. And in this case, I'm going to set it to a 1/2 inch just so it gives me some sort of visual on-screen perspective-wise. I can override the height and set it to whatever I want it to be, but you know that you can always modify or edit that on the actual plan itself. And so now as I move across, it's not fixed or bearing, and dimensionally I'll leave the plan to set that up. Everything you define has a soft list flag which allows it to be included. So finally all I'm looking to do is actually change the color scheme of this so that it maybe stands out on screen. Okay, so we've set this up, and if I either want it to be solid or shaded, I can set it up and it'll be shaded blue. Now, as I do that, I'll be able to come in through my draw wall feature and select my glass wall. And so in this case now, what I'll be able to do is I'm just going to zoom this up, and I'm just going to draw a glass wall across here. Now, of course, inside the 3D, and what I'm going to do is at this stage right now is I'm going to zoom up a little bit so that we're looking down on the plan over here inside 3D, and I'm going to turn the ceiling off. And so under options and material, this is where you can control the visibility of items. So I'm going to just remove the ceiling flag for right now so that it's a little easier for me to show you on screen. There's my glass wall. It'll also allow me to now draw, a little easier without having the ceiling, running into it with my visual. And so inside the 3D mode, I may come in through draw and opening. And again, I could do this inside of either the 2D or the 3D, but I will, go up to my interior doors. And from here, I can select shower, and there's a host of shower doors in there. So I'll just simply select the 28, inch door and click to draw it in. This door can be modified after the fact, so you can always go in and change the dimensions. You'll be able to reverse the door swing inside or out and reverse the hinge side depending on which side you want it to go to. So again, all of that, those properties can be modified just simply with check boxes or clicking the flag on it. As I look at it inside I'll close this for right now, and I'll just say yes to saving that change. As I look at it inside the 2D version, this is what we have, and then I can simply move it if I want to, move it, closer to the wall that's in there. Okay, and so now what I'm going to do is we're going to add, things like, a shower floor, a curb in there, and etc. And so I'll zoom this up now. The wall could have been defined with a curve, and so part of this is to show sometimes if you're just trying to create a 3D model quickly, you may just want to use a three-dimensional shape to represent something. So in my case, using the solid and cube, I'm just going to come in here and I'm going to create my three-dimensional curve using a solid. Now understand, when I do that, I'm accepting that I can't list this in my bill of materials. I'm simply, using it for a visual on the drawing. So the first thing I can do is I can come in and I'm going to, give it an offset, which just gets it up on top of the floor, the subfloor that's there. And then I'm going to go in and I'm going to give it a height, let's say 3.5 inches, and a width of a similar, so as far as the thickness is concerned. And then the length is what I sketched it to be. The glass door, if I want to, I'm going to move it so that it's centered over top of the curb. So we see it there. In time, I will take the opportunity to go in and add textures. We'll get there in just the next few minutes. The other thing I'm going to do with the shower is I'm going to add a niche back here. Okay, and so what I'm going to do is just simply come in through draw an opening, and from the list of openings that's here, okay, I'll just scroll down and I'll find the niche option. Now, in this case here, I'm just looking for something that's square. I can always dimension it after the fact. So once I pick something, I will click on it and add it in. Okay, and you can see the niche right here, which could then be modified, and you could change elevationally what that offset is going to be. So if you wanted it to be 4 foot 6 inches to the bottom of that niche, that's it there. And so as I'm looking at it in 3D, I'm going to pick the zoom to surface and just zoom this area up so we can begin to work with the various textures that are going to be on there. Okay, and so in my case now, what I'm going to do is go in and add things like finishes to this. This will be done in the floor plan for me, and I'm going to change, in the floor plan, the mode that I'm working in to interior. Okay, and so when I click on the interior mode, it opens this up for me at this stage, and now I'll be able to sketch in things like wall coverings and floors and so on. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in through draw and flooring, and you'll see the first X number are actually going to be, modified or actually being set, okay, as far as carpets and floor systems and et cetera, okay. And so in this case here, I'm going to select, flooring number 15, let's say, just to place that in there, and I'll select the manual trace. And so at this case now, I'm just simply going to come in and draw this where I want it to be placed around the plan. And so it places a texture in there for me. Now this texture can be modified or can be changed to something else, but really what I'm just trying to do is set that up as far as what the the surface will be. The same thing for the wall. I'm going to come in through wall covering, and in this case here, there's a whole host of them which could be set up or designed for what I'm going to do. And so in this case, if I select a wall covering and manual trace, I'm just simply going to sketch this wall covering such that it starts in this corner here, and I'm just going to run it approximately where I want this to be placed. And when I've clicked and traced that perimeter, I will then right click to have it placed in there. And over here in the 3D textured, as I zoom this up, okay, and I do a surface edit, you'll see I have a wall covering 22, okay, as far as what my design is concerned. Now there's a host of different manufacturers, as I've said, inside your Softland texture, and this is where I've got the sun coming in, so and it's kind of blotting this out. So I'm going to go back into, for right now, my material options and turn my ceiling back on, which will help us to see this. And so I'm going to do a surface edit on this texture. And right now you can see that I've got display texture and it's just showing a white color there. And so I'm actually going to go to my list of textures that are here, and I'm going to click on my manufacturer, and I'm going to go down into my Softland Plus, which is where I reach for a lot of my textures that I use inside Softland. And I'm going to scroll this down until I find a specific manufacturer, in my case, the MOSA tile. And so once I'm here, you'll see that as I begin to select the different texture patterns that are available there, right, it's basically applying that, to the actual plan. And so I can scroll through this until I find that's more of a square pattern, until I find the texture pattern that I want to use. And so in this case here, I'm just looking for something, okay, and this gives me a little more visual of what it is that I would like to see, and so I will use this one. And likewise on the bottom, I'm just going to do a surface edit on the floor. And again, this is more of the generic tile patterns that are available here. So going to the manufacturer, going down into the soft plan, and scrolling down looking for the Softland Plus, okay, I can pick the MOSA tile, and now I can just simply go through and find the texture that I would like to use. Okay, so and I'm just panning through with my mouse at this stage until I find something that might work better for what it is that we're doing. Okay, and so this is just a matter of, at that point, personality, right? You selected the choice that you want to go with, and then have it applied. And so we see kind of a small brick pattern at this stage. I think originally I'd used something that was a little more square, in this case, or if you're looking for a little more color, again, you could just pick something along that line so that we now have a color in there. Okay, and so now I've got kind of the white, brick tile on there. I've got more of a blue tile right here, and if I wanted to add something in here, again, this is where I could, go ahead and do a different interior inside the niche, which would allow me to tile that a little bit differently. For time's sake, I'm not going to do that, but just I do know that's or share with you that that's available. So changing back into drawing mode at this stage, I'm going to go in and just take the moment to go in and sketch in a couple of plumbing symbols that would be used in here. And so inside the floor plan, okay, I may just come in through draw symbol, and in this case here, I'm just going to I'll do a search for a manufacturer to begin with. And so I just did it by manufacturer this time, and now I see in the Brizzo, I've got a host of all of their different manufacturers or line of plumbing symbols that I could select. So you've got your shower symbols, right? And you could pick from any one of these options that are here. And so I think in the original design I used this. So I'm just going to click to add that in there, and then I can click to add the actual faucet itself. And so that's going to add that into my to my shower symbol, like so. Now again, we're working in a low resolution at this point, so I'm going to pull this back a little bit, and we're going to do a little bit of tile work that's going to take place inside the bathroom. Okay, and so in this case here, what I will do is I'm just going to add the interior flooring all the way around, and I'm also going to add a tile pattern to this as well, so that we can set all of that up. And so inside the floor plan, I'm going to change back into the interior mode. Okay, so just depending on which tab I select is going to determine what's in my status bar. And so in this case here, I can select the interior mode, which takes me back out to this, and now I can sketch in what it is that I want to have. Now, in my case, I want to mix this up a little bit as far as texture was concerned. If you recall, when I was showing the pictures of this, okay, and I'll just pull this onto screen, we're actually going to have a hardwood, and then we're going to go to a tile, and then we're going to go to a hardwood again, okay, or laminate, if you will, just to mix it up, so to speak, as far as the textures are concerned. And so I will come in through the wall covering itself, and I'm just going to, or into the floor covering itself, and I'm just going to select floor number 14. That's what we're going to use for the hardwood, and I'm going to click, and we're going to add that inside the closet, which that's perfect for what we're doing. But then, and I'll change that in just a second. And then I'm also going to do the same thing down here. Okay, and these could be technically renamed yourself if you want to, call them out as hardwood 4, 5, 6, etc. Okay, but as I look at this, as I pull this back, we can see the different, textures. And again, I'm going to assign those for materials. And I'll do the same thing when inside the flooring. I'll just select the draw option and pick flooring, and in this case here, I can just select that I want to to add let's say ceramic 1, and I'm just going to manually trace this in so that we've got this running across here to the shower, and we'll do the same thing down here. Okay, and so once I've got these in, I'll be able to do all of the modifications and such that we want, okay, as far as the design is concerned. So again, now I'm going to do an adjust on this feature right here, which is just simply to adjust that through to so that we don't have a gap between the two. As far as the modifying or the surface right here, I did a right click surface edit on the actual tile itself, which would allow me to now go back into the list of manufacturers that are there. Once again, going down into the Softland Plus, and as I go into the different flooring options, I'll be able to select, the hardwood that I want to use. And I'm really looking for something that's, going to, be a little lighter wood, etc. Maybe even a little bit closer to what the cabinets are in my case. And so as I do that, once I've selected this, okay, I can click OK, and it's going to place it on there. Now, this is something I would like to have mimicked on this wall, and then we're going to place the tub on this area. So inside the floor plan, changing back into drawing mode for just a moment, okay, I'm going to do a quick search for soaker tub. Okay, so I just begin to type in the word soak, and what Softland will do is it has these attributes already attached to the various symbols, which would allow me to now go down and search through the various soaker tubs that are available to me. Okay, so just depending on what it is I want as far as the style is concerned, and you can see you've got your various styles, etc. And so once I've done that, I can then position my cursor I want to place it and drop it onto the screen. Okay, and this can be moved and so on, all right, as far as the design style is concerned. If it's too big or I want to change it to something else, I can always, apply that as well. Okay, so in this case, I'm just moving it, slightly into place as far as the dimensions are concerned. All right, and so once we have that, and I'm going to move it just out from the wall, I can now place the wood wall that was behind that the original design called for. And that will again be done through the interior mode. And so again, this is just designing back and forth and moving, back and forth inside the interiors. And so once we have that in place, I can now select wall covering, right? And as I do that, I'll be able to select, let's say, wall covering, 21. I'll just do a manual trace and simply trace it, basically following the contours of that material. Now, as I do that, I'll be able to right click, and you can see I can either pick wall covering 21 or flooring number 14. And if I were to do a surface edit, you'll see it shows me what that wall is covered in. So in my case, I'm now going to do a surface copy paste of this and apply it to that wall. And it's only going to cover that portion of the wall, okay, for the accent. So once again, I'm going to right click and in this case use the draw select to pick wall covering 21, and I will do a manual trace over here, and I'm just going to trace this on the other side so that as I zoom over here, we can now see I've added that accent wall. Okay, so just playing, if you will, a little bit with the different options that are there for my different designs. And so similarly, okay, if we were using the same tile, we got wall covering 22 inside the shower, right? I may come in and pick wall covering 22, and I'm going to click on that corner right there, and I'm going to drag it down and just click to drop it in on the actual wall itself, okay? And so it's just, again, I could either use the draw select or pick this. And when I do that, I'm going to manually trace that in and just click, and then right click to finish. Click to start, click to finish, right click to finish. And we now have, if you will, that same tile pattern in the shower now being used on the walls themselves. And this, of course, can be modified and changed on the fly if you wanted something a little, different or less busy or wanted to add color. So for example, if we wanted to, let me just drag myself around. I accidentally just hit the mouse there. And so I'm just going to use the zoom surface and zoom myself back into the plan itself. So I'll click the binoculars. You see it says select surface to zoom. And I'm going to zoom myself back into the bathroom right here. And now what I'm going to do is I want to, click and do a surface edit on this tile. And again, this is the various porcelain tiles that are there. Okay, I'm going to, find my manufacturer, if you will, that I want to use. So it's under manufacturer. I'm going to scroll down until I find my Softland Plus library that's there. Again, I'm basically sticking with the Mosa tile, texture. And now I can go through until I find, a texture that I want to use. And when I do that, it gives me a little more color per se. And again, that's something I could apply to the wall back and forth. All right. So that's a little bit about the interiors and how we can do that. In time, I will take this to a higher end resolution, which will turn on, reflections and so on. And the reason I'm not doing that right now is I really don't want to spend a lot of time, on things like reflections when I'm still doing, just design colors and choices like that. So in this case here, what we're going to do is I want to put some floating shelves in here, which could be used for decor or actually holding things like shelves and so on. And so what I'm going to change inside the floor plan back into the drawing mode, okay? And we can see this is my run of cabinets. Under miscellaneous and explode, or using Control E, I can explode these cabinets into individual units so that I can actually see them. Then using the draw and rod and shelf, I can actually use this to draw in my shelving. And this is kind of just a little thing that might have been lost on you, where you think of rod and shelf only for use in closets. But once you've drawn that in, you'll have the ability to go in and modify the rotted shelf. First of all, we can turn the rod off, so we no longer see it. Then we can beef up the thickness of the shelf, let's say. We can change the offset to whatever dimension we want it to be, right? And so in this case here, 4'6", and then I could change the number of shelves that I want, and even what the depth of the shelving is going to be. Okay, and then finally, as far as the spacing is concerned, just set that up. So I'm going to have a 4'6" offset to the bottom shelf. I'm going to have a thickness that is 1.5 inches. I'm going to change the depth to just simply 9 inches so it doesn't stick out so far. And then finally a spacing of every 15 inches just to set that in place. And I will click OK. These can, in the same way that you can do with cabinets, you can specify the shelf finish. So if you wanted something different than what you had for the cabinetry there, you could by all means change that. All right, so that just allows you to design something like that in place. Now, the number one thing I think that changes depth perception on a three-dimensional model is when you begin adding lighting sources to it. Okay, and so what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull myself back a little bit so that we're standing in the walk-in closet area, okay, and looking at the bathroom, coming into it. And inside the floor plan mode, we're going to change modes into electrical. Okay, and so as I do that, you can see at this stage I really don't have anything in there, say for a ceiling fan inside the toilet room, which is kind of doesn't matter to us anyway. And so inside the electrical symbols right now, I'm going to go into ceiling lights, and from here, as I'm looking at the three-dimensional symbols, I can pick from my symbol options where I want to place light fixtures. Now, in the real world, you're probably going to do a lot of dimensioning on this, right? And where you want these placed. In my case, I'm just going to be doing a lot of placement in here. So again, just from the top, draw an electrical symbol, pick the light fixture. Let's use 4-inch can lights in this, and I'm going to place one in. Once that was dimensioned into place, I might do a copy command. So in my case, I simply hit the letter C. I clicked on it, and then I type in, how far I wanted it to be exact, and then type, click to set it down. And so once I have these two setting approximately, where I want them to be, I'm just going to do a copy block, and I'm going to drag, another set down here, something like so. And so that's going to set that up in place, okay, where it, I'd like to see it. And again, the same thing with, the fixture that's going to go over top of the actual, bathtub itself, right? I can come in through the inside electrical mode, pick the draw option. In this case, select electrical symbols. Now here, I'm going to go down into the ceiling lights, and I can click on, let's say, Softland Plus, and go into the contemporary list of symbols that are there. And from this, list of options, I could pick a symbol fixture that I want to place over the bathtub. Right, and the benefit is as I do that, I begin to see the entire thing preview. And of course, this is where you can go in and make modifications inside the 3D that are going to change things. So if someone asks in a private text real quick, can I put a clawfoot in there? Yeah, you can put a clawfoot. You just simply modify or change that symbol to what you want it to be to get through to the client to represent that. that. Okay, so that gets us our, a few of our electricals in. The other thing that I want to do is put a bulkhead across here and then add some electrical in on that. Now, bulkheads, are drawn inside interior mode. And so what I can do is change back into the mode that I want to draw from, and using the draw and tray option, okay, I can come in and you can see we've got a host of trays. So if I was looking for something with a bit of a slope on it, I could do that. Or in my case, I'm going to select no profile. When I do that, and in this stage, I'm now just going for something that's going to be, square in nature. Okay, so I click to start. All right, and I'm going to, click to start, run it the length that I want, click to finish, and then right click. You see that I get this bulkhead over here. I'm now going to edit this, and I'm going to change the dimensions on this, to be something that's more fitting for our actual bathroom. Okay, so there it is, and again, I can change the upper width and depth. So if I only wanted something that was, 8 inches, not quite, but I wanted to pull it out, let's say 15 inches to match the shelving, I could do something like that, and we now have the bulkhead. Again, going back into my electrical mode, if you will, this is where I could now add my can light in. And so I can select the draw symbol, and I can, pick it from here. Okay, so if we're going to put 6-inch cans in where the bulkhead is going to be, all right, then I would just simply, click to start. All right, it's going to place it in. Now, because, again, I've got a bulkhead, it's covering it up, I'm going to need to edit this can light and actually move it elevationally down from the ceiling. And so, again, I did this, quickly and set it all the way down to 15 inches. But I'll show you what I'm going to do is basically I will do a lot of times just changes right inside the 3D. And so in this case here, I can now move this exactly where I want it to be. Okay, again, that's just picking move and selecting it, or I did the right click a moment ago and set it up where I'd like that to be. And so we now have a can light that's going to represent or show shadows. And so I can now do, if you were to do an edit on this, okay, you'll see it's got the offset on there. It's got a light, which we will go in and begin to customize in a little bit on there, okay, as far as the symbol is concerned. So I'm now going to copy this, and I'm going to copy another one over here, so we have 2 of them. And then using the move and copy block feature, okay, I'm just going to, copy these, okay, fixtures where I want them to be. I don't want to get the mirror, so I stop for just a second. And now what I can do is I could copy 2 more over to here, set them down, and I'm going to do a multiple place, and I'll bring 2 back to just kind of be over top of the shelving. And so that may be a lot of lighting. We'll take a look at how that works out, but that's how we can get that set up. Now let's take a look what lighting does to your model, because right now the one on the right hand side, it looks very flat, if you will. And I'm going to pop this to the previous tab group at this stage because it's going to make a little bit larger and easier for us to see what we're doing. And so inside the 3D texture mode, I'm going to go into options at this stage, and I'm going to go into mode options, and I'm going to begin to play with lighting. Right now it's just very flat or very general, so I'm going to turn on the custom lighting. The ambient light is the overall lighting of the entire model. The headlight is literally if you were wearing a miner hat and basically showing it onto the model. But you can see we've got a lot being blotted out because of how much light we have in there. This is where I'm going to come in, and I'm now going to modify these individual light fixtures. So as I click on this, I can turn the custom light on, and I can lower down the level of brightness, the BTUs, if you will, on this. And so I set that to 3, and I'm just going to use the repeat edit, and I'm going to sketch a box completely around all of the light fixtures. Notice that they highlight for me. So all of these light fixtures now, if I were to do an edit on these, okay, are now going to have a custom brightness of 3, including this one, even though it's a different type of light fixture, Okay, it was the brightness that I modified. And as I go back into 3D textured now, you can see that the brightness, the white blotting is gone at this stage, right? And so we can, now see what this is going to look like. All right. And so again, you can brighten or lower them on an individual basis. So I could edit this individual fixture and turn it up. And you'll notice the instant feedback I get inside the 3D as I modify that. It brightens the overall features of the model. Okay, and so that's a great way of lighting your model within the plan. Additionally to this, you can go in and you can turn on things like indirect lighting, as light basically bounces off or reflects back from different items. Okay, and even tone mapping, which is going to also impact how lighting is going to be reflected inside the actual texture model itself. Okay, inside the face options, this is where we're going to get into turning on things like reflections. Okay, and so as you begin to turn these reflections on, okay, that's going to slow down a little bit of your model. All right, but it's also going to actually brighten your model. And the reason I say that is as the lights and as it reflects lighter textures and so on around the model, you'll see that it brightens it. So in my case, I would probably come along and brighten all of these light fixtures, excuse me, along the way right here. And so I'm just simply going to come in and I'm going to, lighten all of these. So I edited this one to a 5, and I'm going to come in and just, run my repeat edit box around that side of the model so that it brightens it up a little bit. Now, additionally, just things like textures could change things about this entire model. And so in this case here, I've done a surface edit on this texture right here. And again, I'm going to go down into my list of manufacturers, and you'll see that I do go to the Softland Plus quite a bit. I'm actually going for the different manufacturers that I'm, used to reaching for. These are all available to you, okay? But I'm looking for something that's a little lighter in texture for that countertop, okay? Whether it has any kind of veining or textures to it, but you can see I'm just scrolling through until I find what it is that I'm looking for. And when I do that, even lightening up the countertop is going to lighten up this overall model on the actual drawing. Okay, I'll pull this back and we're just going to look around. I can see a couple of things. I don't have a faucet for there, and there's that blue cube a second ago that I put in, okay, that represents the curb. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to, paste one of these textures on here. So I may come in through the edit surface copy paste and just paste that texture on there so that we no longer have that standing out. Okay, so inside the floor plan now, just kind of popping, around or in and out of, between the model, and I'm going to be going back and forth. I'm going to, come in and we're going to, add in faucets as well as, anything else that might need to be to finish this out for decorative. And then I also want to create in the final couple of minutes a few custom cabinets right here. And so I will come in through draw and we're in electrical mode. So let's change into drawing mode here and select the draw symbol option that's there. And I want to go back and just do a quick search for my, hands, grow that I was using earlier, right? And so I'll click on this, and then I will go down to the 2 handle, and as I scroll down, I can find, this for the tub. And so once I've done that, I will just click, select the F12 feature, which will unlock my cursor and drop that into place, okay? Again, a quick review over here will show that. Now, let me show you something that I do a lot of is I will oftentimes work inside shaded mode when I'm doing my designs, and then I will inside shaded mode on the face options, I will just turn textures on. Now, this will give me an immediate feedback for what textures look like without going through the lengthy, regeneration with reflections and so on, which I oftentimes, we're saving that to the end, right? So we don't need to do that. Okay, so I've got my tub, I've got my bathroom put together. Okay, I'm going to pull myself back out a little bit, and we're going to, for just a couple of minutes, we're going to build some custom closet space in here. Okay, let's face it, that building your own custom cabinets, etc. Learning how to do that will allow you to free form things a lot easier within the plan. So initially, I may come in here and inside the floor plan, I'll just zoom this up right here. You may just come in and you may select draw, and then you select let's say tall option, and then once you've done that, you may select whatever the width is going to be. You pick the tall cabinet and you click to draw it in, and as I look at it in 3D, this is what I have, right? Okay, but let's edit this for just a second and let's modify that to change it a little bit. So if I go to the face option right now, I can select the custom face option on this actual cabinet right here, and when I do that, I'm just going to remove these parts out for just a second. So it's actually, kind of just blank. And I'm going to start by adding in, and we're going to place some drawers in here. And then once we've added some drawers, we'll add the custom doors, and then maybe even something on top. So I'll just start by doing an add part. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to select and add a drawer panel in here. And so when I do that and click OK, it places a flat drawer. You can set it to recess or pull out, right? But you can go in now and I can specify what that height is going to be, and the elevation gives me a view. And so whether I'm laying out horizontally or vertically, okay, I'm going to be building vertically is what I'm playing towards at this stage. And so I'm going to add another part, and again, I'm going to add a drawer, and again, I'm going to come in and fix that at 10 inches. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add one more part, and this time let's just add a, maybe a double drawer. So I've got, drawers side by side, if you will, on the actual plan. Okay, we can set the dimension on these. It's just a sock drawer or something else, whatever it may be, and we set it as far as the height is concerned. I'll add a new part to this. Okay, and this time I'm actually going to select open cabinet. And what I'm going for this is we're just going to have an open cabinet that will have shelving in there somewhere to drop, whether it's sweaters or towels or whatever it may be. And so I'll click OK on that, and it adds that in there, which would then allow me to go in and scale or set that dimension up to be whatever it is. Again, I'm dealing from a known quantity, which is I've designed this. So in your case, you may be playing around and changing dimensions as you go a little bit, but you understand, at least what I'm doing step by step. And then finally, I'm going to add one more part to this, and let's just select a door option on this. Now, in my case, I'm going to select a glass door on it, okay? And if I just click OK on just that, you'll see that my dimension right here, as it's set, okay, I actually don't see the top part, and that's just based on the overall height of this. So I'm going to come into the tall cabinet, and I'm going to change the overall height to, let's say, 96 inches. And as I do that, and I'll click OK for just a moment, okay, there's my tall, drawer. So up until now, I was basically setting this as being, these individual heights, put this one in, and then this top one actually stretches according to whatever dimension I want in there. Of course, what you could do is you could make this a known dimension and then have the middle section, set up to whatever you want it to be. And of course, as I modify this now, I'll be able to go in, okay, to the actual tall cabinet itself. We can add shelving to this. So I can set the shelving up to be what that dimension is going to be. And I can, whatever the spacing is going to be, number of shelves, if I want to have sections, okay, in this, okay, so I send a center panel down there, or this isn't wide enough for something like that, so I will simply place that something like so, and so I'll set it to 0 and click OK. So once again, now I can just simply come in using draw select, and we'll add another one over here. Okay, and so that just simply drops that in on the actual plan itself. Now all I want to do is just place a bench between this. So I'm just going to search for really quickly. I'll just do a quick search for, let's say, bench or piano bench or something along that lines. Okay, to drop into this. And so as I take a look at my various benches that are available, all right, so these are all of them. I'll pick this one, and I will just simply click to drop it in, and then I'll just use the adjust feature to adjust this to suit. I'm basically just looking to, Let me right click on that and adjust it, down to size, and I can either move it or I can actually adjust its depth or width on that. And so as we take a look at it, we see there's our bench that's been placed in there. This is something I would just come in using a surface copy paste and get that set up. This, of course, could be set to, as far as the face is concerned, right, to also do a an inset face so that it matches what we have going on inside the bathroom. And so something like so. Okay, and so that's, we're getting down to the wire on this. All right, but that's how quickly we can set all of that up as far as the design is concerned. So I'm just going to come in here, and we're going to finish this out by just adding a few decorative pieces, as far as the drawing is concerned, right? And so in my case right here, I may come in using the draw option and just, click on symbol and going through the list of manufacturers that's there. Let me cover up the furniture and just scroll down. Once I select manufacturer, I'll take a look at, where's my Softland Plus? There it is. And I'll click on, let's say, crate and barrel. Now, in my case, I'm dealing from a known quantity of what I have for symbols. And so I'll just click on something like this and maybe do an edit on that. And as far as the dimensions are concerned, if I change that to 2 feet, that gives me something a little bit larger. Again, I could add a shelf underneath there and place items on there. Other textures or other symbols that you might add to something like this, okay, so that we can just, see things through. Okay, if I were to come in here and I'm going to do a quick search in symbols, and we're just going to do a search for towels. Okay, and so as you come down, you'll see that we've got a host of different symbols that you could use on this. And so I will just simply click to draw, and I'm just going to add one symbol in there. And I'll do a lot of this where I begin working it over in 3D. So I've got a towel right here. I may do a copy and place another one up here, right? And then I could even do surface edits on this and change the colors, right? So that's just a matter of coming in and modifying what's the color that I'd like to display on these towels. And then if I'm going to, maybe they're all going to be white, I'll just do a surface copy paste to assign all of the towels as being white. Okay, I could come in through, the draw and symbol, and I could do a search for, plants and such, and that's where you're going to want to go with this when when you're finishing it out. And so when you're ultimately finished, and I'll bring up a finished version of this, you would ultimately change into the textured mode, and I would do a quick regenerate on this. Okay, and what you're going to see is as I do that, I begin to get the lighting and the shadows and so on, right? And this is where I may come in through my options and begin to, modify some of that lighting just to brighten this up. The other thing that you may use a little bit of, and I'll show you this because it's something I use a lot of, is under the mode options, there's a feature in there called gamma. And what it does is it just basically all brightens the entire model, okay, to a little bit. So you'll play around with that in combination with your light sources and your textures to get it to where you want it to go. Now, in the course of time, okay, and I'm going to bring this in here because this is the finished model, right? This is added in, custom plants and so on. We've got some custom symbols, if you will, up here. Those are just towels, okay? Pillow options, which, I just simply drew these from our Softland library. So again, these symbols are available, and then I just added a color texture to them, okay? So as I pull this back, all right, and I begin to view this, I would simply change this into the textured mode and hit the regenerate. It's going to go through. Again, we drew most of this in the last hour where we went through and added these cabinets, customized these symbols right here, added the different, texture patterns that are on there, okay? A few extra symbols have been drawn and placed into play, but things like the reflections. Let me show you some of the settings that have been used as I wrap the class up. We go into the lighting, and you can see, the overall ambient light set somewhere between 3 and 5 typically, just to get that brightness that's in there, okay? As we go into the face options, reflections is going to give you that feeling of depth that's going to be in there. All of these light sources, as you edit them, you'll be able to control their various brightness, and the more light that you add, the more depth and so on that you will get to your model as well. Okay, and don't forget, honestly, using the textures that ship within the manufacturers, and in particular the Softland Plus, is going to add a lot of depth to your model. There's nothing to stop you from customizing your own cabinets. Simply go in and build those kind of like building blocks, if you will, to get the finished model. And then ultimately, to get that crispness, once you have set your textures, set your lighting on the model itself, okay, inside the renderer, excuse me, okay, setting the anti-aliasing. By default, this sits at a 1 or a 2, so you want to enable this, and you want to turn that up so that it's sitting at around anywhere from a 4 or higher. And what that does is it makes your image crisper. Okay, and now typically this is something you would turn on towards the end of the model, because what you're going to be doing is each increment that you increase this, you will slow down your model as far as its rendering speed is concerned. And little things like adding light switches and so on, adding in other interiors such as crown mold, which draws much the same way as how I drew in the overall interiors, is going to be done that. So this will be posted next week, to our YouTube page for you to be able to view and run through this. And so I hope you've enjoyed today. I hope that you got something out of it. And we will look forward to seeing you in the rest of the summer as we continue to take you through the Friday fundamentals. Thank you very much for your time. Have a great weekend.